CNPP is an umbrella organization for all registered political parties and political associations seeking registration as political parties by the Electoral Management Body, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. It was established in 2002 as a result of disagreement over the draft guidelines for the formation and registration of political parties, produced by INEC and presented at a consultative meeting of INEC and its 6 registered political parties in existence at that time, and over 25 political associations seeking registration as political parties. Now, the law in Nigeria recognizes 2 political parties, or in other words, recognize only one political party, a political party that has been registered. Any political party seeking for registration is called a political association. The disagreements arose from unconstitutionality, illegality, oppression, over-regulation of politics and elections, and suspicion that there was intention to finally register only one political party, which was then the party in power at the national level and in 28 of the 36 states in Nigeria. The objectives of the CNPP are: 1, to protect political parties and political associations from the machinations of the government in power at every level and the electoral management body at national and state levels. To help bring about a credible standard of competitive partisan political practice, to ensure political stability and restrain undemocratic forces from taking over political power by force. The result of the activities of the CNPP is a liberal form of formation and registration of political parties and the existence of more than 60 parties, 33 of which, of course, were recently registered, and more are threatened with the same deregistration. Now, here I have to explain that I will limit myself to the 45 minutes limited to me, but since I was invited to speak, I will indulge myself in acting according to my nature. I was allotted the subject of the role of political parties, and by my nature, I do not accept unnecessary limitations, because I can't understand how you can assess the role of a political party and its relevance without going through the whole history of politics in the community, the laws governing the activities of the political party, etc. So I took advantage of the fact that I was invited and went further than what I was asked to listen. But I will remain within the 45 minutes. For every community in the world, since the beginning of organized life of human beings, there has always been a socio-economic, cultural, and political system that is a set of ideas controlling all developments in the community or country. And the system has always been based on either public interest first and self-interest second, or self-interest first and public interest second, or even incidental. That system is inevitably produces a political arrangement and a political leadership appropriate to it. In modern times, that system is expressed in a constitution of the country, whether written or not. Successful countries are those where the ideals and the constitution lead to harmony, unity, and progressive even development of the whole country in spite of superficial differences. Nigeria became a single country through the amalgamation of 1914 by the British colonial power. That amalgamation concretized the reality on ground in the sense that those areas amalgamated and named Nigeria had already been relating with each other as a result of trade, religion, and culture. They were ready for common ideals or conquest to become a country. The present 3 zones in the north had already related with the present southwest in trade and religion for more than 100 years before the amalgamation. Even parts of the present south-south zone and the present southeast zone had started relating with parts of the northern zones and parts of the southwestern zone. Eventually, the present 6 zones became one country, striving to arrive at common ideals and a constitution expressing the ideals, leading to a successful and developed country like Britain, France, Germany, the United States of America, China, etc. The amalgamation created the largest integrated and complementary economy in the area and in the whole of Africa. But because of various contradictions in the way of progress towards a nation, violence related to elections has become a disabling factor in the progress towards a successful nation. Free, fair, and credible elections leading to a legitimate government has become impossible. To combat this violence, the root of it must be identified and dealt with. It is not possible to prevent violence without doing something concrete and effective about the root causes of it, which are, in the Nigerian case, the basis of democracy in Nigeria. The 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the electoral system arising from the 2 mentioned here, all giving rise to structural and criminal election rigging and the resistance, protest, and election violence. Because of the limited time available to me for this paper on this disabling factor in nation building, I hereby refer this august audience to 1. The books written by Barrister Ali Umar titled June 12 and the Cultured North, and Rigging Ways, and also a review of that book on the rigging ways. I also mentioned a paper presented by Barrister Ali Umar at the 2010 Nigerian Bar Association MBA Zaria Branch Law Week. Another one is a paper presented by Barrister Festus Okoye on the abuse of incumbency power beyond 2015. And lastly, a paper presented by Dr. Ibrahim on the same subject as Festus Okoye at the same function and venue, with the hope that the 6 documents can give comprehensive review of election violence in Nigeria. 10 copies of each document is available here. The call on youth. Now listen to me very attentively, please. The call on Nigerian youth to campaign against violence at a time when the capacity of the youth and their future are engendered by the system and the leadership seems grossly unfair and even futile. Because for the youth to be able to do what is required, the level of their social security must rise sufficiently enough to enable them participate effectively. Otherwise, they will prefer to do anything merely to survive, including being paid to participate in organized election violence. According to informed, credible, and reasonable observations, Nigeria has about 20 million unemployed post-secondary school graduates, that is youth, from colleges of education, polytechnics, universities, etc. Recently, the chief servant governor of Niger State of Nigeria was reported to have said that in his state, they registered 30,000 unemployed university graduates. In the whole country, millions of youth cannot get even secondary education or any education at all because their parents are so poor that they cannot provide for the children and are unable to inspire, discipline, and guide them. Where then are the disciplined, trained, comfortable, secure, and capable youth to rely on to campaign against organized election violence? We probably have victims of the system and leadership as mobs for election rigging and the resultant election violence. If these organized youths, if these marginalized youth remain so and yet are used for campaign against violence and are subsequently dumped, they may resort to desperation of the original aggrieved who led to the present Niger Delta insurgents and Boko Haram. Of course, the victims, youth in particular, can be organized to be aware of their victimization and do something about it consciously, concretely, peacefully, and creatively. Our problems in Nigeria, which are relevant to the subject we are dealing with here, are the present regular and continuous registration and the registration of political parties for purposes of election by both military regimes and civilian governments, and the motives behind the policies, the cost of registration of political parties and running them as required by the law, cost of going to court to defend the election, other regulations of politics and election institutions and the rich and the powerful, and the impunity with which they do so. Politics and elections in Nigeria are for the rich, and votes hardly count. To conclude this presentation, may I list 3 cases of structural and criminal election rigging which caused resistance, protest, frustration, etc., and ultimately election violence. In 1993, late Chief M.K. Abiola won the 1993 presidential election, but the election management body failed to announce him as the winner. Instead, the election was annulled at the time until 15 years later, when chairman of the election management body publicly announced that, in fact, Chief M.K.O. Abiola won the election. The winner was detained in prison and prosecuted, and eventually he was killed while in prison detention in the presence of top officials of the government of the Federation of Nigeria and representatives of their friendly foreign government. So you can see how violent election is in Nigeria. Sometimes the violence itself caused by the action of government directly, as in this case. In 2007, a retired General Muhammad Buhari contested the 2007 presidential election. He was not satisfied with the announcement of the result of the election, and he appealed to the election tribunal up to the Supreme Court of Nigeria. But without sufficient legal evidence of who won the election, the Supreme Court announced the winner. Most of it was in 2011. Retired General Muhammadu Buhari again contested the 2011 presidential election. And like in 2007, he was not satisfied with the announcement of the winner. He appealed to the Court of Appeal. He needed some documents from ANEC, the election management body, and the law entitled him to do so, and he did it in accordance with the law. But the chairman of ANEC refused to provide the documents claiming security as his reason, as though he was the chief security officer of the country. Retired General Muhammad Buhari obtained a court order forcing ANEC to provide the documents asked for. To prevent compliance with the court order, the president of the appeal court was removed and another was assigned, and he immediately vacated the order, with the result that it was impossible to decide the winner of the 2011 presidential election, yet bureaucratic arrangement was made and the winner was announced without necessary evidence. This caused election violence in half of the states of the Federation, but no appropriate legal action could be taken by the federal government because the violence was provoked by the political party and government in power, the security services, and the judgment of the court, which lacked sense of justice and public confidence. Now I come to the section assigned to me, that is political parties, because I told you I rebelled against this. Now, political parties have clear and decisive role to be responsible on the matter of curbing the rate of pre and post-election violence in Nigeria. The level of that responsibility is low as it is today because the parties themselves directly or indirectly encourage and sponsor election violence in their desperation to win elections, be in power and retain power at all costs. In democracy, whether real or aspiring, political parties run and control governments through winning elections and constituting governments at every level. Their agents, elected party members, make laws in the legislature. These demonstrate their responsibility for proper conduct of public affairs, including the conduct of non-violent elections. But political parties in this country, without exception, have failed. The only ones that abide by the law are the ones that cannot afford not to do so, the weak ones. The president of the country, who is the leader of his party and the executive president of the country, should demonstrate the highest regard for constitutionality, rule of law, and propriety. But the level of misuse of incumbency and impunity in Nigeria is going beyond what is democratically tolerable. Finally, political parties, to be relevant, they must have people-oriented origin, not people-oriented product, people-oriented origin. Because if you make seeds, and this is relevant in this country, this allegation is relevant. If you make seeds for political parties, then orientation is lost immediately. You don't have parties, you have something else. They must not be the product of money power and reactionary manipulation. They must have clear set of principles and mission, etc. And the laws under which they are established must enable them to do so. Thank you very much.
Please, another round of applause for him.